Okay, welcome to Lecture 27, the first lecture of Chapter 7. We're going to talk about ionic bonding very briefly. The reason I say very briefly is because we've covered most of this stuff before. We definitely already covered the electronic configurations of cations and anions, and we've already talked about how ionic bonds form. So let's just do a quick recap. Metals lose electrons. Nonmetals gain electrons. And then they're held together because opposites attract. It's a little bit more complicated than that, of course. Not by much. They form a three-dimensional solid. It's a network. It's got positive charges surrounded by negative charges, and negative charges surrounded by positive charges. Held together by electrostatic forces, because opposites attract. Now, the actual structure of any given ionic compound it can vary wildly. It's difficult to predict. But I should go ahead and say it is governed by the size of the charge, Q plus and Q minus, the size of the charge is, the positive and the negative charges, and also not just the size of the charge, but the radius of the ion, so the actual size of the ion. Because they have to fit together and hold each other together. So it can be a fairly complex, interesting sort of thing. It's a field of study unto itself. And that is all I have to say for Section 1 of Chapter 7. But if you want more practice, they have some problems there for electronic configurations.